Well, welcome everyone tonight to our book conversation at Sanctuary Online. My name is Jo Bell. I'm your host tonight. Although managing the evening is my beautiful bride, Cheryl Meyer, up there in the corner. Cheryl, get up. There you go.
Who I am.
And we're very happy to be here with you tonight. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and open things a little bit, just so we know. While you're here tonight, most of the night with the book conversation is going to be no slides, obviously, just your gorgeous faces. So if you wouldn't mind, we'd love you to put your screens on gallery view. That way, instead of seeing one large person speaking, like if right now you just see me, then you're not on gallery view. Much better to see me in a tiny box with all the other beautiful faces. So that's up in the right-hand corner of your screen. Also, your chat box, if you wouldn't mind opening that up and letting us know your first and last name and an email address, maybe where you're calling in from or how you've become connected to Sanctuary Online. And Barb's favorite, we have a text feature. So if you're one of those people like me and you forget which day it is, if you put your cell phone number in the chat box, Barb will send you a really cute little text on Tuesday afternoons that says, hey, remember, ping, it's Sanctuary Online night. So we're not intrusive. We only send those kind of careful texts, but we want to know that that's a feature for you. And some prayers for Texas. Many of you have been having that conversation as we've been greeting and gathering together. And I was thinking when I wrote this slide, prayers for Texas, and also, prayers for Texans. There are some people that have really been hurt by the situation. And I'm sure even in the US, we're seeing or in Canada, probably, Joan, seeing on the news, just the fact of the bills, the electricity bills people are getting, the fact that folks, just their homes have been completely destroyed. And so they're out of food, out of water. They're warm, maybe, but there's just going to be quite a bit of fallout from that storm. So just prayers for the folks who are in the worst way, and prayers of thanks for the amazing neighborliness that is really what helped a lot of folks get through, right? Just by who's next to you and what could they share and provide. So a little bit of love for our Texas family. Last week, if you missed it, oh my God, I had to turn you all off last week. These three wonderful leaders of our community were part of the 7-person panel when we did Kwanzaa, December 30th. And they came back, and as part of Black History Month, what we say is they taught us the history we didn't learn in school. And they shared the stories of their families. I mean, my goodness, and what they did, how they endured and overcame so many of the challenges in the Reconstruction era. And so it's on our YouTube channel, as is every evening. We put our recordings up there, so you can click into that. And if you get our email each week, at the bottom of the email, we have our Facebook, our YouTube channel, our website, and our email all down there. So it's a great way to find us on YouTube. I just warn you, because there's so many things called Sanctuary on YouTube that unless you have a direct link, it's quite hard to find us. Anyway, we just want to give thanks for these people. Last week, it was just a wonderful, wonderful event. All the way through February. As you know, the last week of the month is always our book conversation. So here we are tonight. Oops, I went the wrong way. There we go. So March. And the decision you're going to make tonight, March has 5 weeks in it. And so later on tonight, Cheryl will be teeing up the conversation of what book we want to do. If we want to do one of the source books from Rediscovering Relationship with Myself, or if you want to do something else. And so Cheryl will tee that conversation up in a little while. But look what happened. I am going to totally advertise right now, and I'm not ashamed of it. Okay. So was this just yesterday, Cheryl? Look at that. Look at that panel right there. One of the authors, Ken Martin, myself, Lily was one of the people who really helped CLM get launched into MCC and MCC as a distribution. Terry Steed Pierce from Joy MCC. And then Cheryl, Barb, you were en route from one place to the other when we took the picture. So I'm very sad that you're not there. But Barb is part of that team, a 6-person team. And we are bringing a pilot of all of CLM next month, so starting next week. And so what's happening on the first week, I'm going to be teaching a course, which is actually the first course called Brilliant, Gorgeous, Fabulous. I'm going to leave it at that tonight and pique your interest. The second week, Terry is going to be teaching a course called Powerful Beyond Measure, and it is. The third week, Lily is going to bring us Under the Waterline. That is a journey, my friends, that you do not want to miss. And then the one that we're all waiting for, Ken, the course that's called Keeping Body and Soul Together is about our spirituality and our sexuality and the integration or the reintegration of that. It's actually Ken's story, his life story that we teach during that time. And so to have him actually teaching it again, every facilitator who's ever tried to be Ken Martin and tried to teach his story we're all waiting to just see him do this work. So we are incredibly excited. And what's happening right now, Barb, I don't know if you can speak to this or not, but we're trying to figure out registration because we don't know if we're going to get 30 people or 60 people or 90 people. We just don't have any idea. We are advertising pretty significantly because this is a big step for CLM. Everything we learn in March will help us to take a look at putting the entirety of the 18 session curriculum up this fall with a bigger production and things like that, or early in 2022. And what we want to say is that some people are choosing to come in as a group and take it together. So Bonnie, I know you and Carol, you guys have talked about this being in your church, right? And that some folks from church might want to come together. And so if folks do want to come together, we want to create little pods so that each night, all 4 sessions, they go into the same breakout room together, right? And think of, getting to know each other better that way. Obviously, people can come individually or bring a partner or anything like that, but just to start to communicate with us, best way to do that is through talk to us at sanctuaryinthewoods.com. That's our email address. Barb, you were playing with registration, and I wonder what you think about that.
I'm on mine with my book club, so I'm going to be.
Well, my feeling is that it's not perfect, but we can probably make something work.
Okay, that's our update. Maybe, which is how we've learned everything the whole time, right? Oh, anyway, we're very excited. Book off your Tuesday nights in March. And then, Barb, I'm going to hand it over to you for our HBCUs.
Yes. In February, we have, to commemorate Black History Month, we have sort of focused on HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. And we've talked about a little bit about what is an HBCU, and we learned a little bit about that. We learned a little bit about 2 specific ones that are prominent in their work. We looked at Morehouse College, which is a men's school. We looked at Spelman College, which is a women's school. And tonight we're going to look at STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and how those programs are implemented. The HBCUs graduate, they have a tiny fraction of the population of all graduates, but they have 27% of all African-American STEM graduates come from HBCUs. And so there are 4, if any of you on here, before you read ahead and cheat there, if any of you have a pacemaker or know someone who has a pacemaker, or if you've had laser cataract surgery, I don't want people to, to embarrass themselves or to, raise their hands or anything, but you have some of these folks that are featured here tonight to thank for that. Otis Boykin from Fisk University, class of 1941, invented the control unit for the pacemaker. Wow. And in the bottom right corner, Dr. Patricia Bath from Howard University College of Medicine, 1968, class of 68, an ophthalmologist with a long list of credentials, but she is the inventor of laser cataract surgery.
Wow.
And then two others that are engineers and mathematicians and physicists. In the bottom left, Katherine Johnson. If you saw the movie Hidden Figures, this is the real life woman that this movie was based on, is a graduate of West Virginia State University, class of 1937. And by the way, she was 18 years old when she graduated from West Virginia State University with a degree in mathematics.
Wow.
So a significant achievement. And then went on to be a part of NASA and the team that calculated the trajectories of astronauts in the early days. And then the top right, Ronald McNair from North Carolina A&T, class of 1971, was a physicist, was the second African-American to ever be in space. And he sadly died during the Challenger explosion in 1986. He was one of the 7 folks on the Challenger crew. So go ahead, Joby, thank you. So some of the HBCUs with the best STEM programs, Florida A&M, and last week I think it was Reverend Carolyn that mentioned that she has family that went to Florida A&M.
Yep.
It was established in 1887. Their enrollment is a little over 7,000. They are a public university, and many of these are private colleges, smaller private colleges. More than 50% of their students major in STEM, so they are a STEM factory, basically. The most popular undergrad programs are business, biology, criminal justice, and allied health. A lot of medicine, chemistry, and biology coming out of this school. Go ahead, Joby, please. And Howard University is another, has been in the news quite a bit because of Kamala Harris being an alumni of Howard. So you may have heard that name recently, but established in 1867 and as a private school with undergrad enrollment of 6,000. The Bison STEM Scholars Program, they are the Howard University Bison is their team. That's why this is Bison. But their scholar program is a managed path that takes kids, aspiring STEM students from high school. They get them in the program, they get them started on the path in high school, and then they get them into Howard, and they get a scholarship, special advising. They have special study groups and special research opportunities. And these are kids that are basically passing through their bachelor's degree on their way to a PhD or an MD.
Wow.
So yeah, they really do some good work with that. And the National Science Foundation cites Howard as the top producer of African-American undergraduates who later earn PhDs in natural sciences because of this program. So quite an achievement.
Yeah.
And the final one is Hampton University in Virginia, established in 1868. Another private college with undergrad enrollment of over 3,000. They are a mathematics factory. A lot of their undergraduate degrees are related to math and engineering, and they have extensive graduate level programs. They have in their list of graduate level degrees, they have like 3 or 4 that are different aspects of math degrees. So they are quite focused on math, and they have been awarded a $4 million grant from the U.S. Department of Defense, specifically to enhance their research facilities and STEM programs.
Wow.
So
Well,
that's
thank you,
it
Barb.
for our focus tonight. It's the last night of February. So
How about some of this for Barb, who
that's it
researched
for
all
our
this all month long. Barb, thank you for helping us do the work that we
Yes.
all need to be doing to do our own personal growth in this
Yeah.
area. So fabulous. Really appreciate all you did. Thank you.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
Yeah, great.
Great, glad to. Thanks.
And I will keep making slides for you guys, bouncing books, because you've done some amazing things over the months together. And tonight, Fanny Flags, can't wait to get to heaven. So take it
Yeah.
away. And Mary Ellen, halfway through, you pull those speakers out, okay?
Nah, she'll be
All
all right.
yours, Cheryl.
She'll be
All
all
yours.
right. She'll be fine. And I just wanted to say thank you, Ellen, for raising up this book. This was a very fun and easy and light reading book for us to do after some of the very heavy ones that we've been reading. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. But I trust that it actually also brought up some, made you think about how you've always thought about heaven, or maybe thought about relationships and why people do things, and, that sort of thing. I mean, it's like, I thought it's, to me, it's a multi-layered thing, just like some of the other books that we've read that might have been more heavy in subject. So.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a lot of that going on in people's heads about that kind of thing. And I mean, on the surface, to me, there was a bunch of short stories. You could read one a night or something, if you wanted to, and go through the stories that way. And then that obviously they all started becoming very connected, very interrelated, and so on and so forth. But there was all the stories, right when she died, and all the way through, died the first time, right? And up to where she went to heaven. And then there were the stories after she came back, and then she went to heaven again. And then there were the stories after that, and including recipes afterwards of all the wonderful things that people made and baked during that time. So very, very awesome on the surface type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, that might be a good place to start. I mean, one of the things that'd be kind of light to talk about probably is what was your favorite story? I mean, about her. What did you guys hear?
I'm not going to speak up because I would just be, I love this book. So I would just like totally dominate this conversation. So I'm not going to
Here, Ellen.
honestly, there were two stories about her that just really touched me. One of them was how, the guy that ultimately became a truck driver, and how she changed his life, because she really did. And it's like, and people were like, why is she dealing with him and being nice to him? And, and it's like that whole story to me was just beautiful. It's like, it just really talked about what kind of a person she really was. And then near the ends, whoever hasn't, you might want to cover your ears, the whole thing about how she got that gun, and ultimately, and how that all turned out. I was like, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
That's actually my favorite story, was the part about her essentially rescuing Polly and her mom,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, it was the part that I always remember is, she's putting Polly to sleep, and Eleanor is sitting at the kitchen table with this dead man right over here on the side. She's sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a piece of her own pecan pie, And I'm like, crack up, and she's planning out how to deal with this whole situation and make sure that they are both safe. And what an amazing thing, what a woman to have her head so on straight to be able to deal with all of that and what really mattered, in the world.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
So Cheryl, for me, the fairy tale-ness of the book was really poignant in the moment where the nurse's mother ate the cake.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the ultimate benefits that she derived from that physically.
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
Yeah.
That magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. A little bit of heaven came down and just changed somebody physically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. What else? Other fun stories?
I can't remember. I go from one book to the next so quickly that I don't always remember details of the book I just read. But I do remember something, and I can't remember the specific stories, but how the very simple things brought her such joy.
Yes.
and such appreciation of those simple things, and her awe and wonder at some of those things. And I say I can't remember specific examples, but I thought that was really cool in terms of what a wonderful person she was to appreciate those very simple things of God's beauty and the world's beauty, and the gifts that are there that we maybe don't see because we're so busy rushing around and so on.
And life's
Yeah.
booty.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
so excited to share those things, right? Calling
Mhm,
your niece or somebody at some god awful hour in the morning. Did you see the National Geographic? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that was hilarious. And what was that little Post-it note or something she had on her wall with, or some little cutout picture or something? I don't remember.
The dancing mice she liked.
Oh, the dancing.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked her relationship with was it Mackie? So her niece's husband.
Yes.
The fact that he went over every morning for coffee before he went to work. And I just thought that that was like a really balanced relationship in what he got out of it in having a relationship. And even when he was having a little bit of an emotional affair and not sure what he was doing, being able to talk to her and her giving such like down to earth advice,
Mhm.
you know. And on the flip side, like, you know, I could think of like going to visit my great aunt and my dad, you know, changing the light bulb and doing this thing and doing that thing. And it was like, you know, the man around the house. Oh, I should have had him get the ladder. I should have done this. I should have done that. So like they just had such a great relationship, and I had clearly, it was a long relationship for decades. So I thought that was,
I enjoyed the story of a small town because I grew up in one and I live in one now. And there are all those wonderful stories of people helping one another. And it just happens, you know, one time after another. I remember when my parents sold our family home, and the people buying it kept trying to get them to move, and they had a garden. They wanted to finish the summer there. And finally they said, why do you want to get possession August 1? And my folks said, well, or the people buying it said, because our kids are in high school and can get into driver's training. And Jerry can, that's their oldest. And my mother said, and we won't be there, we'll be in Detroit. My mother said, well, Jerry will come and live with us while he takes driver training, of course. And I told people that story when I lived in Chicago. They thought that my parents were nuts. This great big strong teenager, how did they know what he was going to do? I said, oh, come on. And my mom took him out to Lake Michigan. And I'll tell you, when my father passed away, Jerry drove from Columbus, Ohio, where he's a PhD professor now in metallurgy, to my dad's funeral. He was there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, small towns, that's what happens. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that it is a lot different than the way most of us probably grew up, right? You know,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So it lent to me, it was kind of quaint, you know. I found it
Mhm.
that way.
I found it very comforting because you just don't see that much anymore.
Yeah, you don't.
Some of that here, but my little town, there's many Chicago people too that, you know, don't really get into the milieu of living here every day, but some do. And I'll tell you, there are people that would come and take care of your snow or whatever. They'll just take care of it for you.
Yeah. Well, what about that? About some of the relationships that you heard about, or, you know, once she died, I mean, the stories,
Yeah.
it was just amazing. All the different relationships that she had with so many people and how much impact they had on her, you know, or how much she had an impact on them. Right.
The boy that she gave the brownies to, is he the one that turned out to be the truck driver?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't remember how he ended up. That's one struck me the most. I guess I identify with her.
Yeah. And I have, you know, I had to laugh about the cat. I was trying to, I think it was Mackie that, you know, the cat, her cat, Sunny, got lost. And so he replaced it with another one.
Yeah.
She knew, but she acted like it was not, that she knew it was a different cat, but she always acted like it wasn't. And it's like, you know, that happened all, you know, ever so often, you know, it's like, but it would be the same Sunny. I mean, it would be the same cat. And I'm like, that was awesome. to me.
Somebody with a 25-year-old cat, right? Or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things in the book that I enjoyed was Norma's hypochondria. The
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
the section where she got a pimple on her nose, and before she was done, she had a face transplant. I mean, it was
It is
just so
cancer, right?
beautifully written. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the kind of thing where you just keep going down that path, down the path, and pretty soon,
Oh, it was fun.
yeah, that's pretty interesting. Well, what about what did you guys think about heaven?
Oh, that was interesting. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, I've always thought that heaven is kind of gonna be like that, like, the whole pearly gates and the silver or gold streets. I never really thought about that, but I felt like it was gonna be the people that were important to you, but the way they eased her into it, I just loved that. It's like, it's like, this is a person, and it's like, wait a minute, he's not, it's like, her husband's name was Raymond, and they didn't, it's like at the end of that, it's like they always knew that. To me, I was like, that was so beautiful. It was just a beautiful, I mean, that's kind of what, and I felt like she was like, yeah, this is kind of what I want heaven to be like. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you get the feel that, I mean, one of the things they even said in there is they like to bring people there the way they would want to be brought to heaven, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
different ways, and maybe it that's what the impression I got is it's like it's different for everybody that goes there because everybody wants and needs something a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the thing that bothered me about the heaven was that I don't know if they explicitly said it or I got the impression that they think that heaven, that they were saying our time on earth, they just wanted us to enjoy it. That was the whole purpose.
Why did that bother you?
Well, just like like there's got to be a bigger purpose than that,
To just enjoy it?
Like to just enjoy it, just have fun. That'd be our mom, Cheryl. but I don't know. I feel like we have more to do here or something, than just have fun.
Yeah, I had a little similar to you, Kelly. I was like, shouldn't we try to be good to each other, or shouldn't we try to improve ourselves? Or it was almost like too simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, her,
and then even and I always I can remember like going through my confirmation classes and had a pretty open-minded pastor, and we talked about, like heaven, maybe heaven is different for everyone, and your heaven will look like what you want it to look like. We did this whole exercise on what we think heaven will look like. So I like that part, but I was kind of bothered when they said that we bring people up whatever way they like it. But she went up in a crazy elevator and she didn't know where she was and she didn't know why. And it was like Dorothy lady had to be like, oh, well, yeah, we did that because you like roller coasters. She's like, oh yeah, I guess I do. And I'm like, well, did she not like anything enough that it stood out for her, that she realized, like, the other guy who went in, what was like the Cadillac, was like, oh, that's super cool. And she was once she met her, what was it, her sister, and then she climbed the staircase, it seemed like really much, how she envisioned it and what she wanted it to be like. But
Yeah.
first part of it was very confusing and very lonely and not having any answers. I don't know. Whoever meets me better give me some answers faster. I'm not that patient. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I think, Kristen, when you're waiting in line, if we wait in line, I just assume we wait in line, that you get like your answer book. It's like, here,
Yeah.
Joe, here's Joby's answer book.
Yeah.
While I'm waiting in line to
material.
get through the pearly gates, I'm like, I'm reading my questions because they're not your questions, but they're definitely my questions. And
Yeah.
Then if you have anything to, take up with somebody afterwards, like, hey, this is not the answer I was expecting in this book.
Well, and she did. She got to ask those questions, and so she went and asked them of Raymond, right? He said, "What questions do you have?" And what, I can't even remember what the questions were, but they were kind of interesting. But they were about having fun. What are we supposed to be doing?
Didn't you want to know what came first, the chicken or the egg? I thought that
Oh
was.
yeah, that's right. What came first?
Yeah.
I spent way too much time thinking about that the last week. No, it was cool that it was definitely, there are lots of times when I was thinking, I'm like, I don't want my heaven to be like that. But I was like, well, the whole point of this story is that it's catered to her.
Mhm.
And so it was cool the way it was catered to her.
I just
So
think
you
y'all
need
need some
that.
time talking about what Kelly and you just brought up. I mean, it's interesting. Where are the messages? Where do the messages come from that you think life on Earth is supposed to be more than fun? Where do they come from?
Religion.
Religion, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got to ask, well, then why? Why was I taught that?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
fun?
Sure that it's not just something that you crave, like you crave to do something to have a purpose,
I think some people do.
Yeah.
I wonder if if you have a purpose and desire, isn't that fun?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
So
And then I was thinking that too, like her way, Fanny's way of having fun, she was always doing good things for people.
mhm.
So I guess it's okay if that was supposed to be her purpose to be here.
Right. Right. If
My-
somebody
my-
thinks it's
my
fun to
intent-
light things on fire, that might not work so well.
Right.
My interpretation of that was not quite the same. My interpretation of that was not fun as in childish. It was more, don't waste all of your energy every day going to a dark place.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a good thought.
That was where I picked what they had talked about. Because you've only got so much energy every day and you choose how to burn it.
Well, to some extent, isn't that kind of the lesson her niece Norma took out of the whole experience? So I
Yeah.
like that. I like that perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Some stop and smell the roses stuff, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody ever had one of those gone to one of those classes or something where they have you write your obituary as if you died, and how you would want to be remembered? Anybody ever done that?
I've done parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of.
What your impact.
Because I guess the
Right.
reason I thought of that is I thought of a lot of the stories after she died as being a bit like an obituary, even though they were like the way that everybody would remember her and all of this, and you could take, and I know they wrote an obituary for her, but those were all the ways that that she had impacted other people, and the impact that we have on other people, and we don't even know, right? A lot of times the kind of impact, and yet if you were to die or something happened, there'd be all these people that come out of the woodwork and share these stories of impact that you've had on them, whether it was for fun or whether for some other useful purpose or whatever, whatever it was. And I kind of thought of the book that way too, is what do you think about how you might be impacting other people, or what they might say about you?
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
I had an experience right after my husband died where I had to take my car in to have the oil changed. And the woman at the oil change place, because I took it where he always took it. And, and she was like, oh, it's like, I recognize this car. Wait, where's Round Man? And I was like, well, he died. And she cried.
Aww.
She was like, now I never knew this woman from Adam. I didn't know this person. And I was like, and she was like, he was always the best person. She said he would come in here, he would tell us stories the whole time he was waiting on it. And just, and it was almost, it was kind of like an experience like Eleanor. And I was like, I had no idea, you know, that he had that impact on her. And I don't know that he did either, but I also don't know that it would have changed anything that he did, or that he would have treated anybody any differently. And I see Eleanor as being that same way, that she just lived her life the way she lived her life. And, you know, and yeah, all these, again, people came out of the woodwork with, well, she did this for me, she did that for me. She gave me a, you know, a kind word when I needed a kind word. And basically that's what it is. So, you know, I sometimes wonder if that's not really our purpose on earth. I mean, it's like, you know, I know the religion that I sort of grew up with, you know, would have none of that. But things like, you know, I think about like this evening earlier, I came across a little brown scorpion. It's about that big. My cat was like playing with it, and, you know, raised my conscious level of it. And, you know, and I very carefully took a glass and put it over it and slipped a thing underneath it and took it outside. And, you know, and it kind of comes down to me, and I think this is something Eleanor, you know, the story would support, is that, you know, that scorpion was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And why should I kill it? Because it's in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, so take it outside. I mean, I wouldn't want someone to kill me because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And, you know, but that sort of thing, you know, kind of extended, you know, Eleanor kind of would do that sort of thing also. And I feel like that kind of is a much more gentler way of living to me. That was all rambly, so.
No, it wasn't.
That was good. That was good.
I say it was good ramble. Good ramble.
I
Yes.
would have sprayed it with spot spray.
Here I am, everyone.
Think about
I
that.
have you. For a very long time, I have believed that people are in your lives for a reason. And just about everybody that you meet or encounter has some quality that they give to you. And I've experienced it over and over and over with different encounters. One in particular that I can remember is I study a lot of deep stuff and see if I believe it or if I don't. And at that time, I was reading Edgar Cayce and getting some stuff from him, if you know who he is. I went on I owned a travel agency, and I went on a trip. And you never know who's going to, you know, you don't know the people that you're going with at all because they're from everywhere. And this particular girl I met on this, in fact, I met two different girls. One happened to be my roommate during the trip, and we hit it off like sisters. I mean, we just couldn't stop talking to each other, and we had so much fun together. And then at the end of the trip, there was another girl that had kind of been in our group. And the interesting thing about this group is when we go as a group like that, usually all the people that smoke kind of stay together. So you very seldom ever meet them unless you are a smoker. And in this particular group, I never smoked, and I didn't really like to be around it. So it impressed me that not a single one out of 20 people smoked. So I took that as being a reason that we're supposed to be all together, you know, that we're supposed to communicate together and not be split off into sections or groups. And secondly, at the end of this, it was a wonderful trip. It truly was. We went to Alaska, and it wasn't on a boat, but it was a land trip of what Princess Cruise Lines were actually presenting to travelers as a land trip. So it was something new for them. But this girl I met, she said, we wound up having to, a few of us stayed one night longer than the rest because of the way the flights were and so forth. And she happened to room up with me that last night. And she said, have you ever read, well, I don't know, we somehow got to talking about Edgar Cayce. And she said, well, have you ever read Shirley MacLaine's books? And I went, oh, no, I haven't. I said, what is she writing? This was way back there when she was first writing all of her spiritual books. And she got me reading those. And I never heard from her again after that. Never heard from her. But the impact that particular information had on my life was huge. Absolute. It was a life change. It really was. And so I think that happens pretty often, that we are exposed to the people who give us messages, to the people who lead us in a certain way. And it may be somebody that you only talk to at the grocery store one time, or something. But I see no reason that couldn't be possible.
Yeah.
That happens to me all the time.
And the funny, and Janice, the thing is, she probably doesn't even know that was so impactful on you.
No,
Oh,
I have
right.
no way of
Yeah.
telling her that.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. You just don't know.
Completely changed my life. And
Yeah.
she has no idea.
Yeah. Hey, Joan, were you wanting to say something? It seemed like you were getting ready to.
I was just not being a particularly religious person, but I do remember words that Dr. Reverend Brent Hawkes said in more than one of his sermons that really stuck with me. God in you and God through you, which basically says to me that God is in all of us, and as perhaps unprofound as the purpose of our life may be, is maybe just as simple as being kind to people and, being genuine and leaving the kind of impression that Eleanor left, although that was never her purpose. I mean, that was never her intent. She just was who she was. She loved life and she cared for people. And for me, that was her being God in many, I mean, that had those words have had a profound effect on me, that I don't need to think and worry about some greater being or some great beyond. I'll worry about here and now. I mean, I don't worry about it, but I think about it. I'm aware of it. Yeah, thanks, Cheryl.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Joan. Appreciate that.
We just had that conversation today, Joan, with a friend who I think was a little more religious, and her language is a little more conservative religious than I would offer my own theology. And so I was careful, how I was pushing that concept of, are we not all just slices of that same big God, that thing that we name that is not to be named, that thing that we try to understand that is never to be completely understood. And instead of anthropomorphizing, and making a being that we think we can understand, how do we just present that being through our beingness? Right. So I love what you just said there. Thank you for that. It's a nice reminder. Kind. You know what? I'm going to lift that up again. I just saw, I don't know, I was reading or something, but someone said to a little boy, what do you want to be when you grow up? And most of us would think vocation.
Yeah.
And he said, kind.
Oh, no.
That's great.
Isn't that nice? We don't think about presence, about being. We think about doing. And this little boy, as often children do, they get it because they haven't been broken like we have been. But he just said, yeah, kind. And it stuck with
Right.
me. I think I read that like 3 or 4 days ago, and it hasn't left me, that whole concept of it may not be profound, it may not be purpose, but it can be in everything that we do.
Mhm.
And very impactful.
Well,
Yeah.
well, especially because Cheryl, when he said that, what I think is with the work I'm doing right now, why did he say that? Is there someone that he's seeing being unkind? Are his parents using tense words to each other? I mean, it didn't stay with the kind was profound all by itself, but because of who I am, I've got to take it down 3 more levels of where did that come from in him? Never quite as simple as a word for me, but it sorry, Joan, no. It's how my brain thinks, because if that child, if that was the most important thing he could be thinking of right now,
Deep, very deep.
well, and my
Yeah.
gut is he's seeing unkindness that
Mhm.
he doesn't want to be like, or is he seeing kindness and being moved by it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And those are, again, 2 places right now in a very binary conversational world that we could play with for a while. So
But it's interesting because the gifts that we give to each other sometimes come up from nowhere. As with Jovi and Cheryl, I've had the opportunity to be good friends with Joan and Susan for a few decades now. And it was one evening a few months back that they sent me a one-liner and said, oh, by the way, there's this thing happening on Tuesday night at 8:00. And I've been here ever since.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that, Joan. You're the reason why she's there.
Well, because I'm trying to think, Glenda, you came on a little bit early one night and we were just trying to help you figure things out or something like that with the conversation. I'm like, yeah. And that's when you shared that Joan and Susan had been your tie to meeting us.
Wow. So, I mean, it took 35 years, but finally, we sort of found something else to find. It was wonderful.
That's cool. That's really awesome.
I thought for me too, the book really expressed community. I think that, and just after reading some very serious novels, some very serious writings and things, it was really kind of good for me to read something that was just easy and fun, and but it made your head go.
Yeah.
It made me think. But to me, it was really how she related to people was about community.
Sure.
And we are always talking about it, and that's part of Metropolitan Community Church, and that's a big part of who we identify with. And in a year when community is completely differently expressed, sometimes frustratingly so, and sometimes not. And some of the expressions that were talked about earlier, the comments were made that she just had different relationships with each person. Everyone that she came in touch with, she had some type of a relationship with, even if it was brief. But then she also had, look what she did with Luther, I mean, it was just like, and then when she went to heaven, there was community.
Yeah.
And in between, there was that time in the elevator when she didn't know where she was going or where anybody was. And, it was kind of like a different experience, but it connected the community on earth and the community in heaven. Yeah. And I found that really interesting that her relationship, there was a similarity, and part of it was kindness, part of it was compassion, but it comes down to that final word. What are we here for? To be love.
Oh, yeah.
To be love. And she had a way of loving people that the world needs.
Yeah.
I think somebody, I can't remember now who said it though, like, I don't know that if she had the secrets to the universe, I don't think she would have been any different, right? And that's part of what made her so great. Like she wasn't doing it to be kind. She was just doing it because that was in her nature.
Right.
And I think that's what made her such a fascinating, wonderful, kind of like innocent, almost naive person
Yeah.
naive and not realizing how impactful she was, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the part that got me about it. And that, just when they were talking about like, well, what are we going to do for Easter? Who's going to do the Easter egg hunt?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It made me remember when my grandmother passed away. It was just a few days before Christmas Eve. And my family's like, well, what are we going to do for Christmas? Like grandma always does Christmas. Like, what are we going to do for Christmas? And like that rush to figure it out and replace it. And just now you said something there about, the community of the last year. And so many of those things that were like the traditions every year got suspended for the last 11 months, almost a year now. And they really are so meaningful, like to have that tradition, to know like who hosts it, who always brings the certain casserole, who makes the dessert, who, like all those things, like you fit that in, and like makes your life make sense somehow.
It's almost like there's comfort in that certainty. And the reason I say that too is because the last week here in Texas where the power was going off, and it's like, my power might have been on for an hour and then would be off for 8 hours, and then come on for 5 hours and then be off for 15 minutes. And, the uncertainty of that, and, there's comfort in that certainty. There's comfort in knowing that I can go there and punch that and the light's going to come on and it's going to stay on until I walk over and punch it off. And it's the same thing. It's like that, the milestones of our life. Easter is this, and then 4th of July is this. And, and there is like one of the things my mother's birthday was on the 4th of July, and it was always her big thing, happy birthday, America, happy birthday, me. It's like I always got her a big cake and a t-shirt. And the first year after she died, I was like, oh, I need, started seeing the shirts in the different, it's like the t-shirts in different places I was going. I was like, oh, I need to figure out which one of these I'm going to get for my mother. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I don't do that anymore. And so, so Kristen, I think you're right. It's like that's the certainty and the comfort that comes from that cadence of normalcy. And when it gets changed, it impacts us. And maybe it's at that point that we really feel the loss, or we really feel like, oh, wow, the comfort that, the loss of the comfort that we had from that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that you're talking about is when it relates back to the story a little bit too, Ellen, it makes me think of not just the cadence of it, but also of how we take things for granted. All those things were things that we kind of took for granted. And then when she died the first time, all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do now? They were in relationship with her, and all of a sudden she was gone, and they weren't sure how to act, how to be, or what to do, or who, whatever. And so the same thing when all the lights and the power and everything goes off, you think, oh my gosh, this doesn't happen here. This is Texas. We don't have cold like this. It's not, I mean, and now, I would venture to say, a hot shower is not something you take for granted anymore right now. I mean,
how many times did you hit the light switch and nothing happened?
Right. Yeah.
A lot.
So maybe that's part of it too. And part of what her story was not taking things for granted, but saying, oh my gosh, look at this, like a little kid in some ways, being present with life more than that. Right.
Yeah.
Still, you're calling me up at 3 o'clock in the morning to tell me to watch the ant crawl across the floor. So
I also think your comment about the elevator was really cool, because that was the only place where she really was experiencing a little bit of discomfort, because she wasn't in either of her communities, right? Yeah, interesting. Well, does anybody have anything else they want to tie up this little comment with? Because we're going to start trying to talk about some new books now.
Okay.
All right. Well, I've got,
I just want to know, did anybody else try any of the recipes? I mean, I'm serious. It's like, because those were good recipes in the back. So
Where
I want them, but like I said, I didn't have the whole recipe. So I was going to try one actually and, come on with, pecan pie or something, but
the very end of the book, there's like, it's like I'm trying to open it on my iPad here.
Yeah, I only finished the book this afternoon, and then I was like, "There's recipes here."
There are recipes for all those lovely things. It's like, come on, iPad.
And they all have 4 cups of brown sugar in them.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, but and they have weird things like the jarred cheese, like the Newfoundland jarred cheese or something. Yeah, it's after the epilogue. You've got Dorothy's Heavenly Caramel Cake, Mrs. McGree.
Oh yeah, mine have measurements. Cheryl, you said yours didn't have the like.
Yeah, I think everybody's did. Mine, I don't know why the measurements were like left off.
You need to like refresh or something.
Maybe I do. Maybe that's the problem. Yeah.
I mean, because it's got like bacon cookies. We're not, the deviled eggs are really good, but it's got that Newfoundland cheese spread with olives. That was kind of a weird thing. That was big back in the 60s, huh?
Did you try that one?
I did not. I tried it. I made it without that. I'll be perfectly frank. But then there's the bundt cake. That's just really straightforward. The liver and onions is never going to grace anything in my house.
I neither.
Yeah. The green bean funeral casserole. Norma's pimento cheese is delicious.
All right, there you go.
It is awesome. Try that.
I loved that it was called a funeral casserole.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one was the pie. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah.
Or the heavenly cake it was called too, right? Funeral
casserole.
Yeah,
the heavenly cake, that's the first one. Yeah.
Now that heavenly cake is the one that you talked about, Glenda, that's miraculous, that caused some miracles.
That's right. That's right.
So, that'd be a good one to make. So good. Well, I have a couple of books and I will reach out to somebody if my refreshing doesn't work. I'll have to figure out some other way to get them because I want to try a couple of them out for sure.
I'll send them to you.
Okay. Let me see if I can refresh first, Kelly, and then you can. So one of the thoughts was of not doing a novel next time, but continuing on with, CLM, what CLM is going to be talking about. And one of the books is by Thomas More, and it's called Care of the Soul. So it's a kind of a self-help type of book. I don't know if you guys want to go there or not, but that would be one option that we would have. Joe, I asked Joe if she would tell us a little bit about that book.
Yeah, we use Care of the Soul. You'll be doing, those of you who come on next month and do CLM with us, a taste of CLM, a taste of self. We're going to give you a little excerpt. And for us, it's about boundaries. And he tells this story about being introduced at a function. And he said, it's so good. He says, many of us spend time and energy trying to be something that we are not. But this is a move against soul, because individuality rises out of the soul as water rises out of the depths of the earth. And this whole book is about caring for your soul. So even during Lent, it might be a good idea. But he says this story. A friend once introduced me to an audience I was about to lecture. And he said, I'm going to tell you what Tom isn't. He isn't an artist. He isn't a scholar. He isn't a philosopher. And he kept on going on. And Tom says, I felt somewhat mortified hearing all the things that I wasn't. Yet I knew I wasn't. My friend's unusual introduction was wise and absolutely correct. Maybe we could all use an emptying out of identity now and then. Considering who we are not, we may find the surprising revelation of who we are.
Wow.
Yeah, then he refers to the Tao Te Ching and says, the absolute testament of soulful emptiness says, in words that also echo the sayings of Jesus, when twisted, you'll be upright. When hollowed out, you'll be full. So it's going to be a different conversation than recipes. and a different energy, but you all needed this. This was a great book this month compared to last month. You know, I love watching the different energies of what we read. And so this might be, it's a little bit of a departure, like you're saying, Cheryl, not a novel, but you all have spoken for a while about getting away from a novel for, you know, a month and then maybe coming back to something. So anyway, I'm done talking and done voting.
Okay, so that's one idea. The other one was somebody, and I think it was Edie, wasn't here. She didn't read this book. She and Mandy didn't. I think they were too involved with all the Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd, and this is a book about a woman who, during Jesus' time, she was a very strong woman who wrote stories of. I mean, it's historical fiction type of stuff. She takes a lot of liberty with the whole thing, but stories of many of the strong women from the Old Testament saying, hey, there were women here too. It wasn't just men, you know, and she actually married Jesus. So it's about that. And so she was kind of a women's rights activist or an advocate or something like that during that time period. And so it's not, I mean, obviously it's not, you know, necessarily all true, but it's an interesting perspective, you know. So anyway, that was another one that I think Edie had brought up. Anybody have any other ones they want to throw out there?
Those both sound really good.
Yeah.
Different ways.
Okay, this one is still a novel, you know, the Book of Longings. And then The Care of the Soul is going to would be a lot more introspective and reflective, like the curriculum that we're going to go through in March and like the Lenten season. So, but I mean, you know, it's going to be reflective no matter what. As we've found during every novel we read, we always get that same thing. There's a lot of reflection associated with it. So, shall we vote then?
I didn't make a little poll this time, Cheryl, so you're gonna have to use hands.
Okay, well, everybody go down to your reactions.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. That's a great idea.
All right. Now, if you want to read Care of the Soul,
a heart,
then raise up clapping hands. And if you want to read the Book of Longings, raise up thumbs up.
You made them the same.
Care of the Soul, right?
Care of the Soul is the clapping hand one. And then the Book of Longings is the thumb one.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay, so hold on. Dear God, plus Cheryl, they only last 10 seconds, so you can't, I can't count them all at the same time unless you all like 1,001.
I think that was a pretty cool idea, you know, I mean.
Okay,
honey, honey, called slower do.
Honey, can I have this one? Can I help you vote?
Sure, you can help vote.
Okay, you can count. I'm the helper, you're the counter. I mean, let's go into roll here. So Kelly, can you see on the bottom you have a little microphone and a camera and something that says participants and chat?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't see something called reactions.
Oh, there it is. Okay,
otherwise, you might have 3 little dots also. Sometimes that those 3 little dots, they're called triple ellipses. They often mean there's more there.
Oh, Kristen, I love it.
Thank Kristen, you're good. Okay, so now anyone cannot find the reactions? Is there anyone that cannot find them? Perfect. Now, because it'll be very different, Cheryl, thank you, Kelly. I'm gonna say if you want Care of the Soul, I want the red heart, okay? And not yet, not till I say now. And then if you want, Cheryl, what was the name of Edie's book?
The Book of Longings.
Book of Longings, I think we should have tears, right? The Book of Longings, doesn't that make a little sense?
Okay.
Okay, so so I'm gonna give you, it's like Alex Trebek here. I'm gonna give you 5 TikTok seconds to make your decision. Care of the Soul, heart. The Book of Longings is going to be the tears. You go, do, 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 do. You're voting early, people.
They're voting early. That's okay.
Okay, vote. And then we'll try and count them all. If your little thing goes away, put it back up.
If it goes away,
put the other one up.
3, 4, 5.
Wait.
Waiting.
No, it goes away, hit it again.
Okay, let's stop and let's do this one more time. I love you all. I really do.
One at a time, Joby.
Well,
maybe do one at a time.
Oh, that would be like the
Yeah,
Senate.
good idea.
All right, let's do it like the Senate. Yeah. Okay, so So Kelly and Cheryl, you need to count these. Kelly chooses Care of the Soul. Janice.
Care of the Soul.
Janice chooses Care of the Soul. Kristen.
I want the Book of Longings, please.
Kristen chooses the Book of Longings.
Probably read
Bonnie and Carol, you have Bonnie first. Bonnie chooses Care of the Soul. Carol.
Care of the Soul.
Both of that. 2 votes for that. Kay chooses
Book of Longings.
Book of Longings. Ellen.
Book of Longings.
Book of Longings. Joan.
Care of the Soul.
Care of the Soul. Joan chooses Care of the Soul. Cynthia.
Care of the Soul.
Cynthia chooses Care of the Soul. Do you think I'm watching too much MSNBC? Mary Ellen.
Care of the Soul.
Mary Ellen chooses Care of the Soul. Glenda.
Care of the Soul.
Glenda chooses Care of the Soul. Cheryl, what's the numbers?
Oh, we got 8 for Care of the Soul and 3 for Book of Longings. I think we're doing Care of the Soul.
Okay.
So I would like to make
I was
I'd
so
like to
certain that
make
Cheryl was going to say what I was supposed to count.
Ellen, go ahead.
I want to make a motion that we do the Book of Longings for April.
That's what
Okay.
I was going to suggest.
Let's
Yeah.
do that.
Good idea.
Let's do that.
And then
Okay.
you're done, and then you don't have to vote again. That's very
Awesome.
efficient, Ellen.
Then
I
we
was
can
gonna say-
then we can go back and forth and read them. If you get tired of reading Care of the Soul, you can read the Book of Longings.
I was gonna say, I was gonna do both anyway, so.
All
Well,
right.
and I was going to say, Ellen, you should make sure Edie shows up because she's a very good advocate for her position. And if she wanted a book, I mean, show up, goodness. I'll talk.
And this was an easy book to read. You know, Fanny Flagg did the fried green tomatoes at the
Right.
Crystal Stop Cafe and some
Oh,
other
she
ones.
did?
It's like,
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
she did. She's the one that wrote that. So,
Mhm.
you know, it's a very easy read. I think we needed it. I think we all needed it.
It was
after-
nice.
This one, absolutely. Fanny Flagg is also, and I'll get off my soapbox, but she is quoted in CLM
Oh, wow.
as an author. Yes, one of our saints. Oh my gosh, you all are too cute. You're wonderful. We haven't been off this early in a long time, so I'm suggesting that you go away and do something important.
Who wrote Care of the Soul?
Hi.
What?
Hold on.
Barb.
What?
I wanted to say something to Barb. Where does she go?
You
Barb.
know what? Her
She's in internet trouble.
Internet failed.
is still lost. Yeah, her internet
Oh,
is crashed again. Cynthia, would you like one of us to get a message to her, or do you want to do that off?
well,
off-
no, you stay on if you would, and I'll give it all, explain it to you.
Okay. Janice, were you asking who wrote Care of the Soul?
Yeah.
Thomas More.
Yes.
The only one I see on Amazon is the 25th edition or something.
Yes, it's a 25th edition of Care of the Soul. It's a newer edition of it, so he's got some newer stuff in it, I guess, or something.
The 25th anniversary edition.
Yeah.
But, okay, it says, oh, the ebook has typos. Just let you know that. I know if it's like, it says it right there, quality issues reported, typos. So.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Well, goodness.
Well,
Let's get out there.
That's gonna test my soul.
mine too.
You know what? Hold on.
I won't feel the baby with the water.
Hold on. Just in case you're a person who doesn't know much about CLM, if you go to my Facebook page, there is now an interview today. I was lucky enough, Kristen, you watched that, right?
Yeah, I missed a little bit in the end. I got to go back and watch it.
I was interviewed by Dr. Erin Oxel, who many of you also know from Sanctuary Online. Really cool. She said in the interview, she said, "This year I found your community," meaning Sanctuary Online, when I needed community. And she said, and I've never left. And she called me a couple weeks ago and said, "Could I please interview you? Would you come on my podcast and explain to people what CLM is?" And so that happened today. And this is not the fancy polished version. It's just the plain old cut of the recording. But again, one of the goals we've had with Sanctuary Online is that we would continue to leapfrog networks, right? And Kristen, you found us one night, and Mary Ellen, you found us another night, and Cynthia, we all came from so many different places, and yet we're creating community here online. And so Erin is putting this podcast out to her entire mailing list. She's a a best-selling author. She's a psychologist. She's a high performance coach. Just so we're again really blessed to continue to try and invite people and bring the message that we have here of a safe but challenging conversation. You know, so I hope you all come next week. We're incredibly excited about this, and it will be a big learning experience for us. So love you. And
But also, Joby, the other thing is, for everybody who's asking about it, we will put out something very soon about how to register. And it's not like the main thing is we're just trying to figure out how many people are going to come and be here for the entire 4 weeks. So, because that way we'll be able to organize people. And also when you register, let us know, hey, I'd like to be in a group, and I'd like to stay in the same group, or I'd like to switch groups, or I want to come with a group that I'm coming with, or whatever, some different things, so that we'll know how to put people into their small groups,
And
so.
we're doing Talk to Us I'm going to put this in the chat room now.
I think maybe your video was deleted or something, Joe.
I'll check it again, Kelly.
Okay.
Or just holler at me, message me, and I'll get it back up. But the best way right now for registration, especially if you'd like to come with a group, or especially if you know you want to come for all 4 weeks, is just to pop us an email at this talktous@sanctuaryinthewoods.com. Sanctuary in the Woods is our source organization. And one of us, that's an email that goes to many of us. So we'll pick that up, and we'll make sure we get you a seat, just in case it goes over. We only have seats for 100. And like I said earlier, we're not sure if we're going to get 30 people or 60 people or 105. So let us know you'd like to come, and let us know, especially like Cheryl said, we're thinking the small group should be groups of 4, simply because of the depth of question we're going to ask in the small group. We want to make sure people have time to chat. And so we're going to, groups of 4 would be fabuloso.
So if you come, like you're doing a golf team, if you want to come with a group of 4, or if you want to come as a single and you want to be put together with some other people, if you want to stay with the same people, if you'd rather be with different people every time, tell us that stuff when you register, so we'll know what to do. Okay.
Can I say that I'm planning to come, but my chat is, for some reason, I can't make it work.
Okay.
All
so
right.
What do you need from the chat, Janice? The email address?
Oh, we just email that and tell you we want to come?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the
To
email
that.
address, Janice, is just talk to us, one word, and then at sanctuaryinthewoods.com.
Okay.
All right.
All
If you
right.
can't
Thank
reach
you
me,
so much.
Joan and Susan can. So you just ping on them.
Joan's
Okay.
ready to say good night.
Good night, all.
night.
Good night,
Yes.
good night,
Thank you
good
so
night.
much.
Thank
You
you.
guys are a blessing to me. Hey, that's awesome.
Night, y'all.
Thank
Night.